Hi guys, it's George again at Optics Warehouse, and coming off the back of the last sort of frequently asked questions video I did before, I've had some great feedback and thank you very much for that. So we're going to do another one here today. Please keep commenting, engaging as much as you can, ask whatever questions that you like, and if you could, like and subscribe. Now I've done that bit, on to the next round of questions. So first one I've got here, when I'm shooting, so I've zeroed my rifle, when I'm shooting, I start shooting at a different distance, or shooting in closer they've said here, and it's dropping down to the left. What's causing that? In short, cant. So what's happening is you've got your reticule, crosshairs like that, you've zeroed at say 30 meters, but it's either slightly, just ever so slightly tilted, and so that when you come in closer, rather than dropping down that vertical line, it's dropping down to the side of it. Could be caused from, like I say, the scope being ever so slightly wonky, or the way you're holding the rifle could just be ever so slightly out. It's one of those things, a little bit of practicing and a process of elimination, leveling the gun, shooting it at different distances, stuff like that, and you'll be able to figure out which ones those are. Other ways to solve it, if it's the scope that's canted, is to use a scope leveling system, something like the Wolf one, where you level the gun and then use another bubble level on the scope to make sure that it's level, or level your gun and use what they call a plumb line downrange, a piece of string essentially with a weight on the end that will be perfectly vertical. So that's how I would solve that issue. Next question, what distance should I zero? Now this really depends on what you're doing, what you're using, and whether you're going to be dialing or not. So if you're a long range shooter, 308s at 1000, that's your type of thing, or shooting at from 200 yards out to 1000, you're going to need a known point of impact. Usually most people check, say 100 yards, maybe 150 yards, and then they can work out their dope or data on previous engagements for whatever distance they're shooting at next. So they can literally plug it into a computer and go, okay, I need to click up 5 MWay, whatever it is. If you're, say, an air gunner, you're shooting, I don't know, FT, typically you're going to be dialing as well. So again, you'll need that known point of impact. A lot of people will zero slightly further than most air gunners, say 40, 45 yards, something like that. Hunting, if you're hunting and you're air gun shooting, old wisdom always said 25 to 30 meters because that's your effective kill range. Obviously you can push it a little bit further than that, but you have to be very confident of the shot, and you have to take into consideration your drops and anything like you would shooting normally. Rimfire hunting, using 22 LR, 50 meters tends to be the sort of standard that I know of, and that's really about it. Well, centerfire hunting again tends to be 100 yards as well. The main reason for setting your point of zero at a set distance is that it gives you just a known point of impact, and from there you can make your own judgments. So for example, when I'm doing my rat shooting, I zero probably under 20 yards. But I know from that point, if I shoot in closer, I need to aim a little higher. And if I'm shooting a little bit further, I actually need to aim lower because of where I've zeroed in my trajectory. And then further still, I know to aim up a little more. And that's the real important part, is to learn your trajectory and know what your bullet or pellet is doing through its arc of travel. And that's what will make you a better shooter. So next question, The difference between focal lengths on thermals. What I think they're referring to there is, say if you look at the HIC Micro Lynx range, they start from 6 and I think they go up to a 19 mil. And what does that mean? Most people assume that that means it's the objective lens diameter. It's not, it's the focal length. So I think in simple sort of dumbed down terms for people like me, that is how far away the sensor is from the lens. What this affects is mainly your field of view and the size of that objective lens. So it does correlate to it. The closer it is, say with the 6mm being the closest, the smaller that focal lens needs to be. That gives you a wider field of view, but it can affect your image quality. It can make it flatter and give you less depth perception. So bigger or longer focal lengths tend to give you a slightly better image with a wide or a narrower field of view. Idea is you kind of got to balance it for your needs. One thing that will change it is the sensor in a thermal. The bigger or more powerful the sensor, say you go up to a 640 sensor, then you can have a narrower or a shorter focal length, and that will still give you a better image quality than a bigger focal length on a less powerful sensor, because that sensor's a lot bigger. I know it sounds a bit convoluted. I hope I've answered that correctly for you. Next question. Are expensive mounts worth it? To my mind, it depends what you're doing, what you're mounting it to. If you're using, I don't know, say 375 Holland & Holland, big kicking caliber, or those sort of typical African plains calibers, and you're hunting dangerous game, then yeah, a mount that you can guarantee and trust 100% is totally worth it. If you're looking on an air gun, then I don't think you necessarily need to spend as much. I think sticking to brands such as Sportsmatch, BKL, you don't need to be spending hundreds of pounds on a mount. A little bit of caveat there is, if you need to do things like have adjustability, or you need to get risers and stuff like that, then yes, that is going to increase the money that you need to spend, because that's more specialist equipment. But overall, if you're not using particularly high calibers, or you're not taking it to somewhere where your life could necessarily depend on it, or things like that, then no, you don't need to spend massive amounts on mounts. They do, however, one benefit of more expensive mounts, they do tend to be set up so you can add accessories, and they tend to have better aftermarket support as well. So that is one thing to consider with them. So next question, recoil ratings, and what do they mean? So it can be a bit disconnected. Some manufacturers on their scopes will make it really, really simple. They'll say rated up to 50 caliber recoil, or 338 Lapua. Nice and simple. You can all sort of gauge, that scope can take that amount of punishment. Others will say 6,000 joules. What does that mean? Now, essentially, it's from where they do what they call a drop or shock test. They literally have a row of scopes on a block and goes down some poles and drop it at a known height and a known velocity, that type of thing, to put 6,000 joules through the scope and see if it still works afterward. I think it's 6,000 to 7,000 joules. They equate to 50 caliber BMG recoil ratings. But if they say, basically it tells you how they've tested the scope, whether it's been on a laboratory testing, like I say, doing a drop test, or if they have literally just strapped it to a big caliber gun and shot it and see if it works. So that's really what that's telling you. Nowadays, most scopes are built to withstand pretty much most recoils. So unless you are putting it on something very big, like I said, the 50 cals or the 375 Holland & Holland again, it's not necessarily something you need to pay attention to realistically. All right, so that's all the questions for today, guys. I hope you found that informative. Again, if you could comment any more, that'd be great. See you next time.